Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I do weekly uploads on some of the most horrendous and mysterious cases around the world, so if you're a true crime fan like I am, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. In case anyone was wondering, that is the best way to show love to the channel, and I appreciate it so much. For the sake of today's video, we're going to California, and more specifically, Modesto, California. Modesto is the 19th largest city in California with a population of around 220,000 people. The city is mainly known for its impressive agricultural production, but it is also home to the largest winery in the world called E&J Gallo Winery. The case we're diving into today was one of the most high-profile cases of all time. Honestly, some would even say it is the case that started the whole true crime genre, but without further ado, let's get into it. So December 24th, 2002 was the day it all started. In fact, it was Christmas Eve when the newly expecting mother, Laci Peterson, allegedly took her dog for a walk and was never seen or heard from again. Laci was born on May 4th, 1975 to her parents Dennis and Sharon Rocha. She had two siblings, a brother named Brent and a sister named Amy. Her mother would later remarry to a man named Ron, which obviously made Ron her stepdad. Needless to say, she was loved by many. She grew up working on the farm from a young age, then throughout middle and high school, she became a cheerleader. After Laci graduated from Thomas Downey High School, she attended California's Polytechnic State University, where she majored in ornamental horticulture. While in college, Laci would sometimes go visit her friend that worked at a restaurant in Morro Bay called the Pacific Cafe, and that is where she met her friend's co-worker Scott Peterson in 1994. Laci actually made the first move by giving Scott her phone number. Then she immediately called her mom to tell her she had just met the man that she would marry, and the rest was history because Scott did in fact end up calling her, and the two of them started dating. The first date they went on was a deep-sea fishing trip, and they ended up dating for 2 years and then decided to move in together. While Scott finished his senior year, Laci took a temporary job in Prunedale, and after her graduation, the two of them got married at Sycamore Mineral Springs Resort on August 9th, 1997. Laci was the first out of them two to graduate, so after Scott's graduation, they decided to open up a sports bar in San Luis Obispo called The Shack. Business at The Shack was initially very slow, but it did pick up some traction over time, and especially on the weekends. But even though The Shack picked up pace, Scott and Laci still decided to put their business up for sale in late 2000 so that they could move back to Modesto, California and start their family. Following the sale of the sports bar, they bought a 3-bedroom house that was in an upscale neighborhood of San Luis Obispo. Honestly, the two of them were just enjoying life together as a newly married couple. They bought the house at the end of 2000, but it wasn't until 2002 that they would find out they were expecting a baby boy. Laci's due date was on February 10th, 2003, and the couple had planned to name their son Connor. In November 2002, when Laci was 7 months pregnant, Scott was introduced by a friend to a Fresno massage therapist named Amber Fry. Amber claimed to be under the impression that Scott was single, so the two ended up in a romantic relationship. On December 23, 2002, at around 5:45 p.m., Laci and Scott went to see Laci's sister Amy to get Scott's haircut like they usually did every month, and around 8:30 that night, Sharon, which is Laci's mother, talked to Laci on the phone for a little bit. The morning of December 24th, at around 9:30 a.m., Scott said he seen Laci as he was leaving the house to go on a fishing trip at the Berkeley Marina. He said when he left, Laci was watching a cooking show, preparing to mop the floors and bake cookies before she took their dog on a walk. Coincidentally, that was the very last time that anyone would see or hear from Laci again. Please forgive me if I'm not pronouncing these names right, but Karen Service, who was a neighbor of the Petersons, said that around 10:30 a.m. she found their dog Mackenzie alone outside the home, but she just returned him to their backyard, not knowing anything was wrong. Another neighbor, Mike Chivetta, said he also saw Mackenzie at about 10:45 that morning while he was playing catch with his own dog. Scott claims that when he returned from his fishing trip, he came home to find that Laci's Land Rover was still in the driveway, yet the house was empty other than their dog, which he found in the backyard. He said once he got home, he showered and washed his clothes because he apparently got wet during the fishing trip, and after that, he ate some pizza with milk and decided to call Laci's mother, Sharon, to ask her if she was with Laci. Now, this was the first time that Sharon heard anything about Laci being missing, so of course, later that evening, Laci's stepdad called the police to file a missing persons report. The police then arrive on scene only to find that Laci's keys, wallet, and sunglasses were in her purse, which was tucked away in the closet. The two lead detectives that were immediately assigned to the case were John Bueller and Alan Broccini. Due to Scott's cool and calm demeanor, on top of him not seeming a bit concerned, he quickly became a suspect. Those detectives later said that Scott's behavior was a mixture of him being polite and arrogant, but also distant and impatiently irritable. To them, he just didn't seem very disturbed or honestly even concerned by the fact that his pregnant wife was missing and possibly deceased. This put up a bunch of red flags in their opinion, so they ended up bringing Scott in for questioning that night, or I guess I should say early that morning. But yeah, I'm going to play some of that interview for you guys now.
Pretty much, Scott, all I'm going to do, let's just go over what we already talked about, so I can make some notes. See if you remember something that maybe you don't know you remember. So, today, just tell me about the morning.
Okay. I don't know what time we got up. Probably Laci got up and went and assumed she had some cereal for breakfast. She eats right when she wakes up, otherwise she gets sick because she's pregnant. I laid around in bed longer. I got up at 8 o'clock probably or so. Showered. We were watching her favorite show, Martha Stewart. Watched a little bit of that.
You didn't watch the whole thing, though?
No.
You remember what part you saw? I mean, I don't know what.
Some cooking deal. I don't know. Okay. Cookies of some sort. They're talking about what to do with meringue.
And I can't remember. Your house, you had the converted garage area. Is that your TV room, like? Or
Yeah.
Is that where you were then? Okay. Did you eat any breakfast?
Yeah, apple cereal.
Okay. And then what? When did you realize you were going to go fishing?
Oh, that was a morning decision. It's either
That was a morning decision.
go play golf at the club or go fishing.
Okay.
It seemed too cold to go play golf at the club, so just decided to 9:30 or whatever than that.
Mm-hmm.
Just told her what she was going to do for the day, and
Okay, so she told you what she was going to do for the day.
yeah.
And what was that?
She's going to finish cleaning up. Like I said, she's mopping the kitchen floor. Take the dog for a walk, and then she's going to the store to buy for Christmas morning breakfast tomorrow. And that was going to be involved prep. So that was just prepping the breakfast, and she's going to make gingerbread cookies for tonight.
What was she mopping?
The tile in the entryway area.
The entry of your front door or the entry of your little interior converted?
Not the front door, but that back door that we came in.
Right, where the mop was outside of it?
No.
Where your dogs? The one out to your backyard?
Okay, you have the converted garage,
Yeah.
right? And then you have the kitchen,
Yeah.
and then you have a room with 2 chairs in it.
Right.
That room, in the kitchen. I don't know how far she planned to go. She had me put the
So she asked you to put the mop bucket by the front door?
Yeah, 'cause she's, 8 months pregnant, not gonna pick it up or anything, so I filled it up for her. Put it in I guess, a central office.
How did you move it back after or when you come home, or how did it get outside? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you put it out there?
Dog and the cat ran in. Yeah, she wasn't about to lift anything heavy.
So when you left, do you remember what she was wearing?
Black pants, white long sleeve top.
The kind of buttons or?
No, just like a long sleeve t-shirt kind of thing, but, didn't say anything on it or.
Jacket or shoes?
No.
No shoes? Do you notice if her jacket was there? Or did she wear it, like if she went walking at 10 o'clock or 9:30,
She just steals my stuff.
she uses your stuff?
Yeah,
Mhm.
doesn't return his stuff, so I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. She could have had hers or mine or nothing, I don't know.
How about shoes? Does she have a certain kind of shoes that she walks in or?
Yeah, usually a pair of white tennis shoes.
Do you know, did you remember if they were there or not?
The officers and I looked for them in their normal place, which is outside by the wet bar. They were not there, but we didn't look further, so they could be in the house. They weren't where they're normally left. You saw mine where those were. That's where they normally keep.
Okay, so then about 9:30 you left,
Mm-hmm.
and you drove your four-door truck, and you went over to your shop,
Right.
and what did you do over there?
I assembled my mortiser. You know what a mortiser is?
No.
It's a woodworking tool to make tables. Maybe you saw it on the trailer there. About yay big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got that, so I assembled it. Checked my email. Sent one email. Then hooked the boat up and
Okay, so you fish for 90 minutes about, then what, you go back to the marina, get back in your boat.
Yeah.
You see anybody, you talk to anybody out there?
Talked to a couple guys fishing, asked me, did you catch anything? And no, they didn't either. The guys working, fixing, maintenance guys got a good laugh at me trying to back down the trailer.
Okay.
So a couple guys laughing and a couple guys talking about fishing.
Then what, how did you get there?
Highways, you mean?
Yeah.
What's the highway to Oakland? It's 580?
Yeah.
And they take 80 north, right, to go to, like, going to Sacramento or...
So you took 580 to 80 north, okay.
Yeah, and it's like the second exit in Berkeley.
Come home the same way?
Yeah.
You have to stop for gas?
Stop for gas in, I guess it's Livermore or Pleasant. Which one's near the Altamont?
Livermore. Okay. Where'd you stop?
I think it's a Chevron station. There's a, what's the road there?
Was that on the way home or the way in there?
Way home.
How'd you pay?
Credit card.
You have that receipt still?
No, I didn't get a receipt. No.
Debit card or credit card?
Debit. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know which way they counted debit or credit when you stick it in there.
But it was your bank, it wasn't a Chevron card?
Right, it's my, eBay, ATM, debit, credit card combo.
You didn't get nothing out of the store? Okay, when you got in the car, when did you call, you said?
I called Laci just as I was leaving the marina.
Home
Told her
phone?
where I was, home,
What's your home number?
524-2049.
You left a message.
Yes.
And then what's your mobile?
402-8806.
Do you know her password?
8184.
So if you called her number and it would tell you, does it tell you what time the call comes in?
I don't know. With timestamps. Try it out.
Okay, so then you called over at Ron's?
Try it.
Had they heard from her?
No. It's not all day.
Not all day. Was that unusual or not?
No. I think we were supposed to be there at dinner at 6 or 6:30.
What's Laci's mom's name?
Sharon Rocha. Ron Gransky.
Supposed to be there, you're supposed to go to dinner there tonight at 6:30 or last night at 6:30? Okay, so you told Sharon or did you talk to Ron?
Talked to Mom for Sharon.
And what
I asked if Laci was there. Told me no.
Who called us?
Ron did.
Did he tell you who's gonna call? Who else? Did you call other people in?
I called Sharon, and then I called a couple of Laci's closer friends, I think Stacy and Renee. And then I had the phone book out to call hospitals when I think Sharon called me back at that point and said that they would do that, call the police, and for me to check the neighbors and go to the park.
Sharon's one.
I'm pretty sure on that sequence. I mean, I may have checked the neighbors and then come back and got the phone book.
Right, sure.
Yeah, Sharon had Ron calling the hospitals. And obviously this.
Did you do that? Did you check neighbors?
I did.
Did you go to the park?
After I checked the neighbors, came back, called Sharon one more time. She said, we're going to the park, and we have the police going there also. So I went on there.
Had any of your neighbors saw anything or heard anything?
First neighbor I checked with was directly across the street. Her name's Amy. It's her son that was talking about the white truck.
Mm-hmm.
She mentioned the Christmas light thing to me.
Tell me about that again.
She said that our outside Christmas lights, the icicle ones, went on just before I got home. I didn't notice that they were on when I got home, but then she mentioned it. I looked across the street, they were on. They get plugged into an outlet. I didn't plug them in today. And then when we returned from the park, a couple hours later, they were off. So I don't know. I mean, it appeared to still be plugged in. They must have overheated or something.
So Amy said just before you came home, the lights got turned on. She saw that.
Checked with her. Went to the left. No one was there. Left a note at Karen's. And checked to the right of Amy's.
These Christmas lights, you got to plug them in yourself, you said?
Yeah, there's an outlet outside in the storage shed area. Maybe you noticed that area.
I saw where you had your lawnmower and stuff.
Yeah, my golf bag lawnmower.
And the door was open when I was in there.
Right. So
So in there, there's a plug, and you just plug it in, those lights go on.
Mhm.
And then, you said they were on when you were talking to Amy.
Right.
A couple hours later, they were off,
Yeah.
but they were still plugged in.
Yeah, well, I didn't go up and try the plug, so, okay, but I don't see why they wouldn't have been. I mean, maybe it got, hit by a cat or something like that, I don't know, I didn't check.
Who'd you leave a note with?
Karen Service, you're looking at our house, she's immediately to the left, she's the one that was telling you about the dog coming running up to her leash.
You left a note at her place? Was there anything out of unusual, out of normal in your house?
The only unusual things were the leash and the door being unlocked.
The front door, or the French doors?
Yeah, what I'm gonna call the back door.
Right. Okay, well, we're in your room and we're talking about your closet. Looked like a couple duffel bags down. Is
Yeah.
that was normal, or?
Yeah.
Did you get something out of the duffel bag that was on the ground, a raincoat or something today?
Out of that blue bag, the
Mhm.
Nike bag, I took my tennis shoes out of it.
The ones you wore?
No, the white ones that were out on top of the wet bar.
Did you do that recently?
This morning. I think that was this morning. But the leather brown one, I just toss up there, and the other one I hardly ever use, so it's just.
How about the gun? How long has that been in your car?
Probably a month. To Lone Pine to shoot pheasants, took it with me.
Is that your gun?
It's obviously seen better days, but
Yeah, it looks like it.
I don't think I tried to shoot it once in Lone Pine, it didn't go off. So, it's,
I mean, have you had it a long time?
yeah, I think I got it. Well, it may be registered to me or maybe registered to my father, actually, 'cause I think I may have gotten that before I was 18. I don't know. Yeah, it's a llama. And he is he was a buyer on it.
So it's been in your glove box about a month?
I think so. I'd have to check the date on when I went to Lone Pine.
Lone Pine? Okay,
South
so,
of Bishop.
right. What, you went up there, pheasant hunting,
Yeah.
obviously, but you don't use that to shoot
No.
pheasant on. Have you fired it recently?
A pistol?
Yeah.
No. Not within the past year, no.
Did you go to Lone Pine with anybody?
Yeah, my father.
Your dad lives down San Luis Obispo, or?
San Diego.
The towels that were in the washing machine, you don't know where they were, what they were used on?
No, I assume that Margarita used them Monday, but I don't know what surfaces or anything like that.
does she come over?
Seems like once every 2 weeks. This is her third time for us.
You think she was there Monday?
Yeah, she was.
Okay, you guys haven't had any problems, marriage problems? Everything's good?
Mm-hmm.
You've been married 4 years.
Yeah. 4 or 5. Thinking. I guess it's 5. I think they were married in 97.
So you were married in 97?
I believe so.
The times you've walked in the park, you said that you have seen campers, bums, or whatever. And has Laci ever complained to you about somebody bothering her?
No, I mean, like I said, no, and I don't think it's ever come up to her and accosted her in any way. She has times that she's felt uncomfortable, and thankfully she has the dog. We've called, the police a couple times about people down there just to get them to move on. And it's not uncommon for Laci or myself to, wake one of these guys or ladies up and tell them to get lost.
The dog, is it she was glad to have the dog, but the dog is, I got two.
If you're protecting for.
Are they? He
I
is?
mean, if I'm in the yard and a guy comes up to me, the dog is fine. But it's been in the past when someone approaches her in our yard, at least, that he's very protective of her.
He looks like he's been around the block, been around a while.
Yeah, he's an old boy.
Is he yours, or
Yeah,
from
she got
before
it
the
from
marriage?
me. Like a month after we knew each other, she
Oh,
brought
really?
him home as a gift.
As
So
a pup?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, he looked older than 5 years old.
Oh, yeah, no, he's 8.
Is he?
8 or 9.
What's the dog's name?
Mackenzie.
These numbers. Guy,
Yep. This fella's there.
is he just a friend?
Yeah, good friend of ours. That's his right, the 976.
No, his one, it just came up, Guy, so I don't know what his number was.
That's 765. Yeah, so that's guys.
Oh, is it 765-5544? Okay. Who's 619?
That is San Diego, so when I tried to call my parents,
Okay, did you get a hold of him?
no.
How
I'm
do
not
you
sure
get
if that
that
was
straight?
the mobile phone. They don't answer the phone very well. 20, what do we got? Okay, that's when I tried to call my brother, Joe, in San Diego.
You didn't get through?
No. I got some weird message as a business of some sort, so the number's wrong in our phone book.
I'm a 480.
480. I don't know.
Greg Reed.
Friend of ours.
Yeah, Michelle, that must be your dad.
Yeah, Greg Reed owns the house. You look at our house to the right, that's his grandmother's house.
6:05?
Gosh. Oh, 6:05, that's Renee Tomlinson.
That one, the French?
Yes.
How about 8:83?
That's got to be in here. I would have, if I had the phone book, I could tell you.
That's okay. How about 5:10?
That surprised me too. That is what area code is that?
That's Oakland. Or it's even it's Livermore too.
Yeah.
Pleasanton, Oakland.
I forget who's. It's one of the friends, and it's weird that he had that number here.
Or maybe it's his own, it could be his own cell phone.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
About
I had called
909.
before.
These are received calls. Okay, so you received a 604.
No, from Brian. Does it have a time on here?
Yeah,
I
it
know
does.
that
I
I
didn't
called.
go through all the times, but.
.510, could that be Woodland?
I don't think so. No, it's not Woodland. That's okay.
Who it is? I mean, I remember seeing it and wondering who it was, and it was someone familiar to me when we talked. I don't know, I'll have to ask him, but
Curious, what, Maggie was there on, or Maggie and Marguerite, but she was there on Monday, and obviously she did a lot of work, but the
Yeah.
towels were filthy. Why was your wife mopping on Tuesday morning?
I don't know. Got me, she was pretty fastidious about it though.
Was she?
With the dog and the cats and her, doing the Christmas deal. That was pretty common.
Was that gonna be at your house?
Tomorrow, or today, rather,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, she always had the vacuum and mop out.
Okay, so that isn't unusual.
No.
You haven't fired any guns today?
No. So, not since trip to Lone Pine.
When you were in Lone Pine, you said you tried to fire that handgun once?
Yeah.
But what happened?
Just clicked.
Just clicked?
Yeah. I ejected that round, and the second one clicked also. I think I ejected it. Yeah, I know I ejected it. Second one clicked.
You said you did fire, you must have, did you get a pheasant?
Oh, yeah.
Would you be willing for me to take a gunshot residue off your hands?
Sure, no problem. Will outboard exhaust show up as gunshot residue, or is it totally different?
What? Exhaust?
Yeah, from that outboard.
Well, you showered after you said, so I'm not thinking this is even what you're doing, but no, it wouldn't.
Okay.
Would you be willing to take a polygraph?
Sure.
So what you're telling me, Scott, is you have no idea where this is. Okay, One is the cell phone call that you made. If you listen to it, that call was made at 12:17.
What's that?
The first one you made from Berkeley.
Was it? Yeah.
You
I didn't
said,
think it from the vote.
no, you said 2:17, but the timestamp on the call says 12:17. Meaning to me,
You saved it, right?
I saved it.
Saved today at 12:17 a.m.
Without that said? No, let me listen, because I didn't save it.
First time.
Oh, really?
I saved it, or then you saved it, I handed it to you, and you saved it. If it said yesterday at 12:17, you'd be right.
Right.
But
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
yeah, usually when
It says when I saved it.
initially listened to it, it said received at
It did.
12:16
Or
whatever.
2:16.
Yeah.
All right. The only, just to eliminate you as a suspect, you'd be willing to take that. Shut it off. Would you be willing to take a polygraph?
Yeah. And they're accurate, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not nothing that can be used against you, but yeah, I believe they're accurate.
Yeah. No, I'm certainly willing.
Wouldn't be now, it'd be, in a day or two or a week, you can think about it, but
No,
it's just like the next step in this thing.
Sure.
Really, what's left is the flyers, the canvas tomorrow, the media coverage. What concerns me the most is the fact that your dog came home with a leash on. That bothers me. I mean,
No question.
yeah.
What concerns me most is doing anything I can to further progress.
I appreciate that, and I don't want you to hold it against me. I mean, sometimes I hate asking you.
You got to do it.
But I do. I really do have to do it, and I mean, I understand. I'm glad you have a strong support system with you.
Yeah.
And I'll give you my numbers and my cards, but there's not a lot more we can do right now, other than canvas.
Well, we can do a lot.
Going back to the night of Laci's disappearance, the detectives immediately launched a search to try and find her. Meanwhile, Laci's mother, Sharon, went to search the park nearby, and she said that while she was there, she saw Scott from a distance and repeatedly yelled his name, trying to get his attention, but he just kept ignoring her. She said even when they got back to the house, he was still acting standoffish, and one thing she pointed out was when she tried to give him a hug, figuring he was upset, he angled away from her to avoid the hug. At 2:15 p.m., Scott called Laci and left her a voicemail that said,
"Hey, beautiful. I just left a message at home. 2:15. I live in Berkeley. I won't be able to get to Villa Farms to get that basket for Papa. I was hoping you would get this message and go on out there. I'll see you in a bit, sweetie. Love you. Bye."
End of message.
The day after Laci's disappearance, the Modesto police and firefighters carried out an extensive search along Dry Creek. The search included helicopters that were equipped with searchlights, police riding on horses and bicycles, K-9 units, and water rescue units on rafts. There were a total of 30 officers involved in this search, as well as Laci's loved ones and volunteers. There were also many people that went around posting signs and handing out flyers in hopes that they could bring awareness to her disappearance. The detectives on this case did not for 1 second believe that Laci just up and left without telling a single soul she was leaving. It was just very, very out of character for her. The story ended up attracting nationwide media interest, and at that point, a $25,000 reward was offered, but the reward just kept increasing until it eventually hit $500,000. Honestly, you guys, the community and the people just wanted any information that could lead to Laci's safe return. Unfortunately, no one with plausible information came forward until April 13th, 2003, when a couple walking their dog found the decomposing yet well-preserved body of a late-term male fetus that was in a marshy area of the San Francisco Bay shore. His umbilical cord was still attached, but it seemed to have been torn. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but normally if you give birth to a baby, they either cut or clamp their cord. They do not tear it. The autopsy results were sealed by a judge, but the baby was said to have 1.5 loops of nylon tape wrapped around his neck, and he also had a significant cut along his body. Just 1 day later, a passerby found the body of a recently pregnant woman wearing beige pants and a maternity bra, washed up on the eastern rocky shoreline of the bay, just about a mile away from where the baby's body was found. The corpse was so decomposed that they almost didn't even recognize it as a human body. The woman had been decapitated and her limbs were missing, including most of her legs. At that point, they did a DNA test, and on April 18, 2003, the results verified that those were the bodies of Laci and her unborn son, Connor. An autopsy was performed on both of them, but the exact date and cause of their deaths were never determined, and that was partially because it was hard to tell what happened and when it happened exactly due to the water and decomposition. Laci's cervix was intact, though she did suffer 2 cracked ribs. The problem was that Dr. Peterson could not determine whether this occurred before or after her death. Laci's upper torso had been emptied of all of her internal organs except for her uterus, which was protecting the fetus, so that explains why the baby had a lower level of decomposition than she did. On December 30th, 2002, shortly after Amber Fry learned that Scott was a person of interest, she came forward and told the detectives about her and Scott being in a romantic relationship. She said that they met on November 20th, and he initially told her that he was single. I guess after they started dating, she began to suspect him being married, so she confronted him about it on December 9th. Scott then told her that he was a widow and that this was going to be his first holiday without her.
Hello?
Amber.
Yes.
Amber.
I'm here. I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Thank you for answering.
Well, I'm a little bit fumed right now.
You should be.
Are you driving?
No.
So where are you right now?
I'm in Modesto right now.
Doing what?
I'm helping in the search.
Really?
Yeah. I've been putting out flyers and helping in the search.
Again, so why did you follow through or go ahead and meet me and have this date and do all these things with me and tell me all these things? Why? For what purpose did I serve in your life during this last month?
Amber, you changed me since last month. You're so special to me. You're amazing. And I did.
And so what, are you telling me your wife was not?
I cannot explain it all to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you're not wanting to explain to me right now, Scott.
No, I want to. I can't.
You want to, but you can't because why?
Too many people would be hurt.
Too many people are hurt now if you're telling me this is international or national, don't you think?
Yeah.
So how is that going to put any more hurt than that's already out there now? How would you think this wouldn't just break my heart to meet someone? And I even tell you where I'm at in my life, and I'm starting my own business. I just moved out from doing the chiropractic, and what I've been through in my life already to this day, you're very well aware of. We've spent many times on the phone or even together and me talking about these things. How could you possibly not think you being married would affect me? How?
I don't know how to answer that right.
Of course, it was then questioned by authorities whether Scott had this whole thing planned out. On April 18, 2003, the same day that the detectives got confirmation that the bodies found were in fact the bodies of Laci and Connor Peterson, Scott was arrested near a golf course where he claimed to be meeting his dad and brother for a game of golf. His naturally dark hair had been dyed blonde, and his Mercedes was packed full of miscellaneous items, including nearly $15,000 in cash, 12 Viagra tablets, survival gear, camping equipment, several changes of clothes, 4 cell phones, and 2 driver's licenses, which was his and his brother's. Scott's father, Laci Peterson, said the only reason that Scott had his brother's ID was because he wanted to get a resident discount at the golf course, and that Scott had been living out of his car due to the media attention, which is why he had all the stuff in there. What his dad had to say just didn't matter because the police and prosecutors were not buying it. They saw this as an indication that Scott had planned to flee the country. Which takes us to April 21st, 2003, when Scott was arraigned in front of Judge Nancy Ashley, where he then entered a not guilty plea. Because so many people already had their minds made up about him being guilty, Scott's trial was moved to San Mateo County. Trial began on June 1st, 2004, but it wasn't until November 12th, 2004 that Scott Peterson would be convicted of first-degree murder for Laci's death and second-degree murder for Connor's death. One of the most prominent details of this case was the evidence presented in the trial. So basically, the only evidence they had on Scott was circumstantial, which circumstantial evidence is evidence that implies someone committed a crime without directly proving it. The circumstantial evidence in this case was Scott altering his appearance to avoid being recognized, him adding 2 pornographic channels to his TV just a few days after her disappearance. He expressed interest in selling their house, and they also claimed that him having the affair showed he was unhappy in their marriage. Last but not least, Scott traded in Laci's car just to get himself a new truck, which prosecutors say that proved that he wasn't expecting her to come back home. The only physical evidence they had in this case was a single hair of Laci's that was found on his boat. Nevertheless, Scott was found guilty, and Judge Alfred DeLucci sentenced him to death, calling the murder of Laci cruel, uncaring, heartless, and callous. Scott got lucky though, because in March of 2019, California Governor Gavin Newsom issued a moratorium for all 737 prisoners on death row in California. The order postponed all executions for the duration of Newsom's tenure as governor because he said the intentional killing of another person is wrong, and as governor, I will not oversee the execution of any individual. So needless to say, Scott never died by lethal injection. Instead, he was resentenced in November of 2021 to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Nearly 20 years after he was initially charged, Peterson and his legal team put in for a new trial, arguing that the trial he received was unfair due to one of the jurors apparently not disclosing her involvement in other legal proceedings. They claimed that the juror, Rochelle Nice, alleged that her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend committed acts of violence against her and prompted fears for her unborn child. During the jury selection process, Rochelle told attorneys that she had never been the victim of a crime, but then in a 2017 interview with 2020, she said her situation never came to mind when she had filled out the application. Ultimately, the court concluded that her responses were not motivated by pre-existing or improper bias, but instead they found that the responses were the result of her misunderstanding the question and being sloppy when answering. Due to their findings and according to the court records, the California Supreme Court overturned Scott's death sentence, citing that his jury was improperly screened for bias against the death penalty. When it was all said and done, on December 20th, 2022, it was ruled by a California judge that Scott Peterson would not be granted a new trial in regards to the murder of his wife Laci and unborn son Connor. With that being said, we have reached the end of this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, and also make sure to let me know down in the comment section below whether or not you think he's guilty. Okay, love you, bye.